voters have the power to also hold legislators accountable. If they don't like how they're delivering, how they're matching what voters want, then at election time, they'll be more aware, have that info to hold them accountable.
And that's just incredible that you're doing that. Now, I'm going to throw a question out there out of left field. Have you ever thought about including this in the school classroom? Or if not in the school classroom, because I've gotten the memos that the K through 12 system is pretty much structured and the teachers union is pretty much the most powerful union ever. But have you ever had the idea of gathering? I know you're still I don't know that you're in the beginnings, but I know you're still building this program in a big way of gathering kids in a restaurant or a local church and going over a certain vote and having them chime in on voting. It's sort of a civics class, I guess you would say a civics class on steroids, really getting young people involved, because where we've lost it all is elected officials get elected by presenting whatever works and then doing what works for them and their big donors.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think I've especially had an interest in using it for like educating, getting students kind of more engaged in the political system, because I feel like the policies are the most interesting part of government. And then how the legislators are voting, it's what's really tying that in. So I have done a presentation to one of the, I think it was Florida Polytechnic University. One of the professors there had me present to the students, and I thought that went really well. It was really interesting. And then I was just tabling at a protest the other day, and another Florida professor came up and was really interested in using this for her class, kind of as like a project that they can use kind of to narrow in on a bill and kind of educate about it. So yeah, I thought that's definitely something really interesting that I really hope that we can do more of.
And I think you're gonna, yeah, in the beginning it's gonna probably be you generating it, but I really do think it's gonna turn into something that's just gonna happen over time, more and more. And that is another. So what we're seeing in politics today is we're seeing a lot of young people involvement. There's a particular person that generally comes up in every conversation. That's great, but the fact of the matter is, where the voting happens, presidents don't write laws; they sign them into law. And where the voting happens is at the legislative level, the House and the legislator at the state levels. And this is just an incredible program. Something I always point out to people is when President Obama, who was essentially, I guess you would say, more articulate, in ways a more popular president, and in ways he was more embraceable, more approachable. Even though he was all that, locally, we as Democrats, we lost 1,200 seats in local government all across the country during his 8-year term. Now, when you get this involved, and these 1,200 particular individuals that didn't get elected understand the pulse of what the people want, not necessarily just cater to the special interests, that could change their prospects too, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think so. I mean, for one, not only voters being able to weigh in, but yeah, the legislators, candidates getting that information to help inform their voting, and the accountability aspect of it too. Like, are they representing voters or are they representing other special interest donors? So, really making that more apparent too.
And that's a big part of that report card that you're generating, right?
Yeah. So the unique thing about the report cards that we're providing, we're mostly just as an organization providing the technology, and then we're not the ones evaluating legislators. We're providing that technology where the voters are the ones evaluating their legislators. So every legislator's vote gets compared to how the majority of the voters had voted. So we're just showing how often they're matching. And then that's how the legislators are evaluated. So yeah, it's really the voters driving the accountability in that way as well.
And that's 100% of what you want. If the voters, this is a reality that generally legislators vote about 5% of what people really want. They really pursue about 5% of what they promised and vote for about 5% of what the people really want. Now there's this right there at their fingertips. They got a full understanding of how bad it is, or if they're actually keeping the agreement that they made when they were out there plugging for the office. And
Mhm.
this is really a big tool that could change the dynamics of American politics. And we're seeing a lot of this kind of stuff happening all the time. And I really think that we're going to see a brighter future for America if American voters are more engaged. So how did this all start? Were you with, was Ramon Perez, was he a founder, or did you guys start together?
Yeah, Ramon, he's the founder, executive director. A lot of his inspiration for starting Digital Democracy Project came from his experience as a veteran, and especially like seeing the events unfold on January 6th kind of really inspired this. And then I found out about it kind of completely random. I had a similar idea about kind of a way to these policies that the polling shows that a majority of voters want, a way to really give that more weight and get more input from voters to, I guess, like show that there's real support behind it to influence legislators, and using technology as a way to do that to kind of get that mass input. I was trying to find a way to make that happen, to pursue that, and just from a random Google search stumbled across Digital Democracy Project, and it seemed so much like what I had in mind, and they were much further along. So I actually moved from Indiana to Florida when we were at the state level in 2023, and Florida only at that time doing state legislation. So I moved down to help with outreach, and that was at the same time when we had our first political endorsement. So he was a candidate running at the first state house, saying that he wanted to use this technology as a way to hear from voters. So we did a lot of direct voter contact and letting voters know about this technology and that they had a candidate running that wants to use it to hear from them. And so that's where we started, how I got involved. And then 2024, we expanded to where we were carrying federal legislation for Florida voters to weigh in on. So then you could also see what the members of Congress in Florida were doing as well. And then 2025, we expanded to where any US voter can vote on federal bills. And then now 2026, we've expanded to the state level in 7 states. And then 2027, we're planning on being in all 50 states carrying state legislation. And then we'll always continue doing federal bills that any US voter can weigh in on too.
Wow, so you're on schedule to be in all 50 states in less than a year.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Wow, that's
that's an
incredible.
ambitious goal.
And it will happen. And that is a big goal, but it will happen because and this is Ramon's journey started after serving in the military, where cost and stakes of democracy became very real to him. The cost and stakes of today are very real to all of us. And I'm not saying I disagree with what's going on or I agree. I'm just saying when we think about what's going on, wouldn't it be incredible if people had this at their fingertip in all 50 states and able to really weigh in on the next election cycle? Because I think what happens is we really get fixated on the president. And here and there, we get really interested in a senator or a governor. But at a local level, where it really matters, where it all really happens, we have no understanding of what's really going on. And this, with what you and Ramon have created, changes all that. And you've got this giant agenda to be in all 50 states in less than a year, or well, you got the whole year of 2027, really. So you got a year and a half, but but it's still pretty big to go to get the 43 states done. How do you initiate each state? I got to ask that question.
Yeah, so how it started for Florida, we have a legislative coordinator, and he actually works as a legislative aide in Tallahassee. So he's in all the meetings, in the at the Capitol, aware of like what's coming up for a vote, all the schedules. So he's been super helpful in helping us get those, relaying the bills at the Florida state level, and he's really well informed about at the federal level too. So he's been super helpful from the start. That's been like a core aspect of this. So as far as like expanding to all 50 states, what's really helpful, what it really comes down to, we kind of have the technology tested out to be able to like load the bills, put them in front of voters. But what's really going to be important is getting the input about which bills are advancing that are coming up for a vote, so we know which ones to post in the app, because we don't post every single bill. There's thousands and thousands and thousands of bills. So yeah, getting that timeline for like which bills to post when, and that's kind of where we're looking to develop more connections, either organizations or find other organizers